welcome to another episode of the Knitting Jungle podcast. My name is Sarah, in case you're new here, and I live right outside Boston, Massachusetts. I missed my December upload because I was sick, so today's episode is going to be everything that I knit in 2025 sweater and other garment edition. I did do a bunch of other knitting that was accessories or little toys, but I won't be getting into that because that's too boring, and I mostly like to knit sweaters, so that's what I want to talk about. Before we get started, I'd like to wish everyone a very happy new year, and I hope you had a wonderful holiday break with lots of knitting time. In case you're only here for the knitting, I'll save all my talk about what I did over the holiday and my new environment setup here at the very end of the video in case you don't care about that. Oh, and there's going to be a really exciting yarn giveaway which I'll save for the end as well. You might not want to miss that. When I was making all my notes to get ready for this video, I was shocked by how many sweaters and garments I had made this year. I think some of that was because in my previous year of knitting garments, I hadn't made any summer knits, and those summer knits do go pretty quickly, so those definitely added up. But also, I just spent a lot of time knitting this year. I usually knit at least a couple hours every day after the kids go to bed, and then even more on the weekends if I can. And then whenever I just have a few minutes to spare here and there, I try to get a few rows in, and I think it really does add up. I'm also a pretty fast knitter, and I have a knitting machine, so whenever possible I like to do a combination of hand knitting and machine knitting wherever possible. So I hope this will just be a fun little roundup of different patterns and yarn, and maybe I can introduce you to some things you've never heard of before, some new designers or new yarn. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. I also forgot to mention that I'll just be sharing the bare bones essential information for each project in order to save time. But then if you want to hear even more about the project, I'll link the original podcast episode where I talk about the whole project in its entirety below in the description box. So I think maybe I'll go in reverse chronological order, because since I missed last month's podcast episode, there are a few projects that I finished that you've never even seen before. Starting with this big heavy beauty here. This is the Ava Jacket by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and this came out as one of the Isager archives projects, I guess. They had all these very popular designers revamp some old patterns by Marianne Isager. So this jacket slash sweater is really cool. It has this kind of newspaper column printed effect here, and that's achieved by holding a third strand of yarn, which is black, just in the sections of the columns. So it's kind of like color work, except not really. You just either include that third black strand with the rest of the yarn or you don't. And this is knitted flat, and it's a very easy pattern. You start in the back here. Oh yeah, and look at this really cool design line here in the back that stretches all the way from one sleeve across the back and to the other sleeve. And this is the very last step of the project. Once you've knit the body, it has a beautiful thick double knit button band. And I think you do the ribbed collar first, and I like to wear this with the collar folded down, and it makes a beautiful open neck type of shape. And then I have these toggle buttons just like she had in her pattern, because I thought that looked really cute. And I am very happy with this project. Maybe 90% happy, because it is a little bit big. I was kind of in between the size 2 and 3, and I decided the 3 because it's definitely supposed to be oversized. But this is quite oversized, and I think I would have been a lot happier with the size 2. But that being said, I've been wearing this nonstop, and I am still really happy with it, and you can just throw this on over whatever you're wearing underneath because it has such a giant oversized fit. Like, look how deep that armhole is. Luckily, my winter coat is also ginormously oversized and can fit this even under that. So just watch out if you need to wear a coat on top of this. It is quite bulky and thick with a really long dropped armhole. So the original version of this was made using 3 different Isager yarns held together, and that was turning out to be quite a pricey project. And so one yarn was kind of a chainette yarn, I think maybe alpaca, And then the second one was a tweedy effect yarn. And then the third is just this black strand here, which you hold some of the time to create this effect. And so I found some Drops alternative yarns for this project, and it was a lot cheaper, and I think the effect is very, very similar. So I found a chainette yarn called Drops Sky, and then a Drops Tweed yarn called Drops Soft Tweed, I think. And then the third yarn, I actually did buy the black Isager yarn because it was a mix of wool and linen. And I thought having that little bit of linen quality in there would be pretty cool, different texture. Like I thought the linen fibers would poke out a bit. But they don't really, so really don't bother getting that, that black Isager yarn. I think just any fingering weight black yarn will work for this. I made this on 5mm needles. It called for a 5.5, but to meet gauge I had to go down half a needle size. So as you can see, this works up really, really quickly. And I think something really cool you could do would be to make a full length cardigan coat out of this. I think that would be really nice. I was actually planning to do that, but I kind of got bored and just, I thought it also looked good at the current length, so I did stop there, but I originally had plans to make this like a full wraparound cozy coat. But I just think it's a really cool jacket, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on it, and nobody has been able to tell it's made by me. So whenever I tell them that, they're very impressed. Okay, now I will talk about another project that you've never seen before. I think I made only a swatch in my last video, but this, wow, look at this. This is like one of the only colorwork sweaters I made this year. Yeah, when I was looking back at all the projects I've done, I was like, why didn't I do more colorwork? Colorwork is my favorite. So at least I finished out the year with an ultimate colorwork project. Did it get a little bit wrinkled here on the floor? Whoops. So I made this for my husband because this is his perfect color palette. He looks so good in this. I'll put some pictures here of him modeling it, but it's even better than I had imagined, and I have a pretty good imagination. So this is called the Troi Sweater, and this is by Alex Bird, which is an Estonian designer, and she likes to use different Estonian knitting techniques in her patterns, and I just love knitting and learning about different techniques from all around the world. And someone commented maybe 2 videos ago to check out Alex Bird, and I'm so happy that they said that because I was like, yes, this is right up my alley. So as you can see, it has these beautiful braids here instead of a ribbing here at the sleeve, and these braids are called Kihnuvits, and it's kind of like a Latvian braid, except it's only on 1 row, so it's like a little bit easier. And this is knitted in a beautiful Portuguese wool by Rosa Pomar, and it's called Vovó, which means grandma in Portuguese. And this is, I don't think it's a merino, but it's really, really soft for like a 100% non-superwash wool. And this is even knit at a really tight gauge at 3mm. So even at that tight gauge, I don't find this itchy at all. And at a looser gauge, it would be even more soft, I think. This one is knit from the bottom up, and you can see beautiful color work and braids down here. And then, so I knit the whole bottom band, and then I discovered that the colorwork chart was a 24 stitch pattern repeat, which is the exact pattern repeat that my knitting machine can handle in the punch card. So I thought this is the perfect opportunity to use my knitting machine for this color work. This was going to be his birthday present, which is in March, but I was able to finish this in about a month thanks to the knitting machine doing all the heavy lifting here. So I made a punch card with that color work pattern and gauge swatches and everything, and did all the calculations necessary, and I knit up until here, the bottom of the collar, and then you leave some stitches right here on holes in the center, and then you keep knitting in the round but doing decreases here along the neckline. So I took it off the machine. I did this part by hand. You can kind of see the difference. The pecan color is a little bit, the brown shade is called pecan. It looks a little bit thicker than maybe down here, and that's just the difference between machine knitting, which is super, super even, and then hand knitting, where your contrast color pops out a little bit more. That's what I find is the difference there. And in the original version, you knit this in the round and you cast on stitches for the sleeve to be steeked, so steek stitches that you will later cut. And then when you get to the neckline, you cast on some more steek stitches and you cut that as well. Since I was able to knit this on the knitting machine flat, I didn't have to do any steek stitches. I just seamed it up the side here, and then once I took it off the machine and had to do this little section by hand, then I cast on some steek stitches and cut that at the end. So the only bulky steek section turned out only to be like maybe 2 inches here at the shoulder seam. And I'm really happy with that, because one thing I don't like about steeking is the bulk it creates later, especially on the sleeve area. Doesn't matter so much for my husband, because if you've got more bulk in your arms, that's like very flattering. But for me, I find that that's not too flattering. So I thought that was a really cool effect of, or benefit to using the knitting machine. And the 3 colors I used here are number 3 navy, number 10 pecan, and then this gray color is color number 1 natural tan, but I find that's actually more of a gray, not a tan. And this color is so beautiful. I would knit an entire sweater out of just this color. It's a perfect balance of not too cool of a grayish brown and not too warm. And I think it looks really good on my skin, so I'm adding that to the list of yarns to use for a future project. A few more things about this. It comes in 11 sizes, which I think is the most I've ever seen a pattern come in. And I made the size 3, but when I blocked it, I had to stretch the arms and body a lot. Like it turned, the arms were too short, and so was the body for my husband. He's 5'9", so he's not like that tall. So I did have to increase those lengths a little bit. And the Vovo yarn is a sport weight yarn, but you could also make this in a fingering weight yarn, I think. And I used 3mm needles, like I said, and the gauge was I think it was 30 stitches per inch, so quite a tight gauge, super warm, and most importantly, extremely impressive. So this is definitely up there with my favorite knit of 2025. So since I already had the punch card made for that, I decided to make my youngest daughter a family match sweater. It's pretty much a match. I didn't do any of the kiknuvits or anything like that. I just did plain ribbing and then used that. Oh, this is so soft. And then I used that punch card to do this motif all over. She's 5 years old. And she's kind of small for 5, so this looks so tiny, but it's so cute on her. This is made out of something called Merino, and you can get this on colormart.com. Now there's a bunch of tariffs. I got this yarn a while ago, but it's a merino yarn that is supposedly as soft as cashmere, and it's definitely soft. My older daughter is really sensitive to wool, but she thinks this merino is soft enough for her. So she's gonna be getting one of these in black and white pretty soon. This next one you've already seen me working on, but it's now finished. This is the Paul sweater by Morica Knit. This is my first pattern by Morica Knit, and I really like her writing style. She puts a lot of secret little details in there that make the garment extra special. I just love the V-neck detail here with the double center decrease stitch here. And I made this because I really wanted kind of a elevated basic V-neck sweater. I really like V-neck or anything open at the neck. And I wanted to try out Morica Knit's patterns, so I thought it was the perfect matchup. Another one I've also wanted to make that's really that's really similar to this one is the Lake sweater by Ozetta. I think maybe I'll make that one too. That one has a rounded neckline, but also has a similar saddle shoulder type of thing. So this one is knit by, you make 2 little rectangles here in the back, and then you seam them together right in the middle here with I think probably a 3-needle bind off, pretty sure. And then the rest of it is just knit top down. Pretty easy, straightforward. This was knit on 4mm needles, and I made the size 2, which I found is, I finally picked a size that was not too oversized. I have a really hard time picking something, like when I want an oversized fit, I don't need to make as big of a size as I think. because sometimes 1 foot of positive ease is just too much for me. It doesn't look that flattering. So the size 2 for me is perfect. For reference, I'm 5'7", and I usually wear like a medium in clothes, and my bust circumference is 37 inches. And I'm really, really happy with this, mostly because I found the coolest yarn ever is from India. It's by We Are Kal, Nomadic Fibers, and it's like a beautiful non-superwash sheep yarn. This is in a natural white color, and all of this is hand spun on a drop spindle. And it's single ply, so it just has a really beautiful rustic effect. And each skein of yarn is a little bit different. It might have been hand spun by different people. And some people might not like that, but I really like this really handmade look to this garment. And yeah, the ribbings show 1x1 rib, and there's not too much to say about this. It's just a simple, beautiful piece that I've been wearing a lot. The yarn kind of fuzzes up after you block it, almost as if you've used a mohair with it, and I think that's because of the single ply. And I find this really soft and kind of lightweight and drapey. You can pair this with anything, which is why I made it in white. And yeah, another great success from 2025. My next project is probably the stupidest thing I knit last year. This is the Ivy, oh sorry, there's like lumps in here from getting folded. This is the Ivy sweater by Kutova Kika. It's showing up a lot brighter red on camera, but it's actually more of a dark purpley red in real life. Yeah, kind of like this. This is from her book Knit This, and I wanted to make a lacy yoke sweater, so I picked this pattern. But actually, I don't like the design at all, so I don't know why I picked it. But at least it was a pretty fast knit. I did have a lot of problems with it though, because in the original pattern, I didn't like how after the lace portion, the rest of the body was knit in stockinette, because the background of the lace is purl bumps. So I thought I would just make the body of this in purl bumps. And since I already hated the pattern, but I wanted to finish it, so I did the rest of it on the machine, the purl bump body and the sleeves. And yeah, I mean, I like the color, I like the yarn. I wore this one time, but this is going in the harvest section of my stash, which means whenever I want the yarn, this will be harvested. Because, yeah, I just don't like it. I don't know why I chose the pattern, just not that good. There was also an error in one of the charts. Instead of 2x2 left cable, it's a 2x2 right cable, or something like that. The yarn I used is called Svensk Wool, which is a Swedish non-superwash wool. That is really nice, and I love the different colors this one comes in. It's a worsted weight yarn, quite rustic, so if you're sensitive to that, you probably don't want to try this. This is 5mm needles, and let's see what else. I made the size medium/large, and yeah, I guess that the lace pattern is really beautiful. I just think it's not me, so why did I pick this? Although here on camera it looks nice. Maybe I'll give it another try. It's still going in the harvest section though. Okay, so this is the Miles shirt jacket by Ozetta. Really, really well written pattern again. This is made in a worsted weight yarn called Let Lopi. It's a very rustic Icelandic yarn, super itchy, and I just used a bunch of different scraps to make this, what's this called, like patchwork type of design. Here's the back. And I really like how this turned out. It was a really fun way to use scraps, but I think it looks pretty cool as well. I used 5mm needles for this, and I wanted it really, really thick because if you see in the example picture, it's quite a loose gauge. So I actually held all the Let Lopi yarns double, which made it really dense, but also really hard to work with on 5mm needles. So if I make this again, I'll just size up to the 6mm needle. It'll still be really dense. And I wanted this to be even longer, but since I had planned these patchwork squares perfectly, I couldn't really make it longer without having to, I don't know, probably add a whole new section of color block like down here. But that's okay. I'm still wearing this a lot because it's really, really warm. And if you find this type of yarn itchy, you're not going to be wearing this next to skin, so it'd probably be okay. And this also has a nice thick collar here. I like to wear this open. It also has toggle buttons. Oh yeah, and this turned out smaller than I was expecting. I think I made the smallest size, which definitely shouldn't have done. So to create width and size in the body, I made sure that the button bands didn't overlap and would just provide a couple extra inches of width there. So that was a secret trick that it didn't work that well, but it did give me a couple extra inches. And then for the pockets, I made sure to try to line up the colors so that the pockets would kind of blend in with the background patchwork that I had planned. This one comes in 9 sizes and has a 15 stitch gauge. So I think maybe you could use a bulky weight yarn for this one as well. Really well written pattern. I would definitely make this again. Maybe not in a patchwork. I probably don't need 2 patchwork Miles shirt jackets. And maybe a very long version, kind of like the house coat I was kind of trying to make with the Ava jacket. So yeah, another great success, maybe A-. My next one is, oh, so soft. This is the Zipper Sweater by Petite Knit. And I really like this one because I thought I was so clever making this kind of 2-color design here, where the collar and then the zipper front here is a contrasting cream color, and then the rest is a brown camel yarn held with an Isager mohair, and this is the softest thing in the world. I've worn this so many times. I think I finished in September, and I've worn it, I don't know, about 1,000,000 times. And if anything, I feel like the mohair might be pilling. I don't think it's the camel. This looks like mohair. But I'm okay with that. That is, yeah, that's definitely the mohair. It's kind of weird. I thought mohair was supposed to prevent pilling. Anyways, I'm okay with that. I just pulled one out and it still looks really good. Anyways, this one is, I think, a worsted weight yarn, and I used 4mm needles. I used a YKK zipper, and I did, since I have a lot of sewing experience, I was hoping the zipper would come out nice and flat, and it did come out perfectly in my opinion. You can wear it up high here on the neck if you're cold, and then if you need a little more room, I usually wear it open like this so that the white doesn't get brown makeup on it, and I think it looks good like that. And for some reason I didn't see anyone make pockets for this, but I feel like a zip jacket needs pockets, so I just added some patch pockets here, and I did a little contrast pocket bag opening trim here because I thought that would look cool. I feel like a lot of store-bought zippered fleece jackets have this kind of color scheme, and that's exactly what I was going for with this. This comes in 9 sizes, and I made the extra large. It's a little too big. Again, I probably should have made the large, but that's okay. And it has a 15 stitch gauge. So my gauge was a lot tighter than that, so I think that's why I sized up to the XL. But since it's camel, I think that's quite drapey, and when you block it, it will increase. I don't even think I blocked this. At some point I will have to wash it though, so I'll be really careful not to overstretch this. And yeah, a raving success. I love the camel yarn. You gotta try it. Oh wait, I think I included the camel yarn in my yarn giveaway, so if you win, then you can try it. Okay, the next project is my ultimate favorite, tied with the Troi Sweater. This is the Teru Sweater by Junko Okamoto, and this is a 1-size pattern, but it has maybe 400 projects on Ravelry from people of all sizes. And so what I did to make this very oversized pattern fit me better was to decrease the stitch gauge from 20 stitches to 28 stitches by going down to a 3mm needle with fingering weight yarn. I think the original was probably a sport weight and 3.25mm needles. The yarn I used is the Rambler yarn by the Woolly Thistle, which is an all-natural sock yarn. And it's really sturdy. It has great stitch definition. Here you can see this pattern has this beautiful basket weave type of texture here, and then Plenty of color work to satisfy you, but not too much that'll slow down your progress. This top here, the color work was actually knitted flat, so just a warning in case you really don't like that. I don't mind. It's definitely a skill that I would like to develop more, so that was great practice. And then here it's got a little keyhole opening. I've made a little crochet button out of the yarn, and I just keep it closed permanently for a little extra coverage. And I just love this so much. It's so unique and so beautiful. Kind of has a little bell-shaped sleeve. I think I had to lengthen the sleeve by quite a lot because I have long arms. And then also I was knitting with a much thinner yarn, so the sleeve was going to end like here originally. So I just did many more pattern repeats to get the full length sleeve. And then I made this quite cropped because I find that flattering on me. And then the ribbing I changed to a 2x1 twisted rib. I love this so much. I wear this all the time. Since it's a sock yarn, it's holding up perfectly, zero pilling, really, really soft. This is, the gray color is a natural undyed color, and then this beautiful color here is called Golden Fern. So like I said, this only comes in one size, and then it's kind of up to you to figure out what you need to do to make that work. So that is one negative, but I think it's worth it. Her writing style is my favorite pattern writing style of everyone. It's so clear. It's like step 1, do this, step 2, do that. No extra words or anything like that, but it's all very, very clear. And that is what I like in my pattern writing. Now on to another giant sweater. I think I finished this in August. I remember I was knitting this over the summer, and I was kind of like, what am I doing with my life here? But you know, I just missed my woolly wools. Like starting July 1st, I was like, all right, let's get back to the wool here. This is the Salt Lake City Olympic sweater by Garn, and I made this for my husband because one time he went skiing in Salt Lake City, and I like this pattern, and I thought it'd be really cool. He loves crazy like colors and stuff like this, but I finished it in August, and then I had to wait all the way until Christmas to give it to him because this was gonna be his Christmas present, and I did give it to him this Christmas, and he actually liked it. The other things I made for him he's barely worn, but he wore this already. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks since Christmas, and he's already worn this like 5 times, and that just made me so happy. So now I'm inspired to make him more stuff because ever since I finished this one, he's been wearing his other knits that I made him a lot more. Like suddenly he appreciates how awesome his hand-knitted sweaters are. But anyways, this is ultimate color work. I kind of changed the top of this pattern because I saw some other Garn sweater with this exact type of color scheme, and I just really liked this. So I switched out this part of the pattern, and then for the main part here, this is all the regular Salt Lake City pattern. And this is the front, and then the back has a different chart. So these charts are not for the faint of heart. You have to pay really close attention, and every row is different, so it's not like you can just like pick this up easily when you're on the go or anything like that. But if you have, it's like a nice couch project. If you have a cold winter and you just have this on your lap and it stays on the couch, you can totally do this. The neckline is a little bit wide, but he says he likes it and it's fine. And this is huge. This is oversized. I knit the size large when my gauge was a little bit big, but I was actually planning to steal this if he wasn't going to wear it. But since he's been wearing it, I haven't had to steal it yet. This is made in Hillesvåg Luna, the same one, that one I'm wearing here. So this is a lamb's wool. It's really soft for a non-superwash wool, in my opinion. And he doesn't find this itchy. He even said, oh, this is so soft. I think because I must have made him an itchy sweater in the past. So this one is much better by comparison. And what else can I say? It was a huge success, huge, and he looks great in it, and most importantly, he's wearing it. So even if it stinks, just the fact that he's wearing it is enough for me. And Although this is a worsted weight yarn, I knitted on 3.5mm needles because I wanted a really tight gauge again. I think it would have been more comfortable on maybe 4 or 4.5mm needles, but I'm really happy with how it turned out because this is perfect for our winters here in New England. And this year it's been unseasonably cold. We've had like 9-degree nights some nights. So yes, it was a little tricky working such thick yarn on smaller needles, but I think it was worth it in the end. So next up is a summer knit because I made that one in summer and I also made this one in summer. This is the Colette top by Sari Nordland. And this, I just thought I was so clever by changing the colors of this. Like the original design doesn't have stripes, but as you can see, there are sections with cables and then sections with kind of an open, let me show you, open lacy work here, which I did in black. It probably doesn't show up too well, but I think it's so cool. And then you have these little pearl bumps here from when you change colors. And then at the end, I thought to tie it all together, I would add a little black crochet trim here. And I love how this turned out. This pairs really well with black or white shorts. And yeah, oh, and then the sleeve bands and the neckline are all double knitted, so that gives it a really professional look. This is made in Katia Cotton Yak. So it's 60% cotton, 30% merino, and 10% yak. This is really soft. It's definitely pretty thick for summer, but I pretty much never get hot, so I was wearing this up until about 90 degrees. I could wear this. And I thought it was fine. It's also a great layering vest type of piece for winter. Just put this on over a black long sleeve thermal layer, and I think it also looks great like that. I made the size, oh yeah, this is a problem. Okay, so it comes in 8 sizes, and I accidentally made the size 2. The size 3 would have been a lot better, but I accidentally misunderstood positive ease for negative ease. So you should do 0 to 2 inches of positive ease, but I read that as negative ease. So when I was blocking this, I had to stretch this a lot. It's still pretty, it's definitely form-fitting, and it would be better slightly bigger. But since it's pretty thick, I think if it had too much positive ease, that might look a little too bulky. So maybe it's for the best. Either way, I'm really happy with it, and I wore it a lot this fall and on those cooler summer days. Moving right along with the summer knits, this is the Ilana Camisole by Masha Ziablikova, and the yarn I used was Ilimani Sabri in number 1, and this is the color called Bone. And it's a fingering weight yarn. It's super soft. It's 85% cotton and 15% alpaca. So it's really soft, has a beautiful drape, and the cotton they use is also, must be really, really soft, Pima cotton or something like that. And it has a beautiful all over cable design. I think this is like a 2-stitch cable. So that definitely took a while, but the effect is so beautiful that I think it's worth it in the end, especially if you make it a little bit cropped like I did. It's still pretty cropped, but I think I knit even more than it said in the pattern. The original pattern's really, really cropped. To start this off, I remember it would be better to do a provisional cast on for the straps because I think I wound up having to adjust the straps in the end, and if I had just done a provisional cast on for the fronts and backs, it would have been a lot easier. This comes in 8 sizes, and I made the 3rd size. I could have even sized down, I think, because this is really stretchy. So if you want to knit a little bit less, you could probably size down. I think this pattern was really well written. I don't have any negative memories associated. And I'm glad I made it in this beautiful shade of white because it goes with everything. And white's a perfect color for summer. The straps you could even make a little thicker if you wanted to cover your bra, or maybe put in those little snaps so your bra doesn't fall out from behind the strap, but I don't do that and I think it's good enough. I would definitely use that yarn again. In fact, I bought a couple skeins of the black because I was gonna make a black tank top, summer tank top, but I never got around to it, so that's definitely somewhere in my summer yarn stash, and I'll definitely be making something in that this spring or summer. Okay, my next summer top was a bit of a fail, And that's maybe the pattern and maybe the yarn. So this is the Surya top by Mochi Knits. And I picked this because I wanted to try this open front design for like cool beach wear. And then I also love this really deep scoop neck. She has another top just like this, but with a V-neck, so in case you like V-necks. And then the yarn I used was called Drops Bell, and I used like 3.5 balls of that, and each one was $2 on sale. So luckily I didn't waste too much money on this one. And the Drops Bell is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. It's an 8-ply, so it's very splitty worsted weight yarn. It's beautifully soft, it drapes really nicely, but it does show all the imperfections, probably from the viscose or just whatever. Maybe knit at a tighter gauge, it would be okay. But my main problem is with all the finished edges are like rolling in or like just not laying well. So yeah, I think some of these are like I-cord edges. I think the I-cord edges look the best, so those are like in the front here. I think that looks okay. But then in the armhole, I don't know, it just looks like sloppy, loose, messy. Maybe I think I even redid one of them and I couldn't get it to look any better. So if I were to make this again, which I'm not, I'm just gonna go down a needle size and see if a tighter gauge would help. I think this yarn would be really beautiful in a summer top that had very little finishing edges or like design elements, so just straight up stockinette or something like that, because by the time you do all this shaping and then the open thing here like doesn't lay very nicely, maybe because it's just too drapey. I don't know, but I think for like a regular simple tank top, I think this would actually work out really well. I think I got this yarn actually to make my mother-in-law a shirt, so I wonder if I should get burned again trying to use what I planned for that. Well, I guess we'll see, but this is another fail. This is going in the fail, I'm sorry, the fail harvest pile. Okay, this next one is really cool. I did a lot of cool colors this year. This is my Pista Kulfi sweater, also known as pistachio ice cream, because this was made in Drops Air and the color is called pistachio ice cream. This is really soft. I heard some people say Drops Air didn't hold up that well, but I wore this a lot since I knit it in the spring and it's holding up perfectly. Like even under the arms, I think there's like 2 pills there, and it kind of blends in with the yarn or blends in with the pattern or something, so I don't even really notice this. So this is a cabled sweater that I drafted myself. It's like a raglan style sweater with lots of different cables and braids, and then on the sleeve there's this kind of cable running down and some background knits and pearls just to give the sleeve a little bit of texture. Those pearl stitches are kind of fading into the fuzz a little bit. That's okay. And then I did short row shaping in the neck band collar area so that I wouldn't have to interrupt the rest of the cable design. And I actually wrote up this pattern and it's for free on Ravelry, just in my size, untested, full disclosure, that's why it's free. But it's a fully charted pattern, so like a giant chart for the sleeves, a giant chart for the body. And this is this an Aran weight yarn? Yes. And the gauge is 20 stitches and I used a 5mm needle, which is a US 8. And this was really fun because it actually worked out. Like I designed something and it worked out. And it's a little bit cropped. It's a really flattering length on me, like right before the widest point of my hips. And I just really like this color. It's perfect for spring. It makes you happy. And yeah, I would definitely use Drops Air in a sweater again. I would knit my own design again. I think this in white would be even more versatile than this pistachio green. Ooh, and I really like this really long, twisted, ribbed sleeve section here. Yeah, this was a huge success. So that's going in my successes pile. Next up is another summer knit in this really cool yarn. This I also drafted myself. It's just a couple of tubes, or yeah, it's just one tube with some straps attached. I saw a very similar top by Stout for like $100 or something, and this is made in Gepard CottonWaves yarn. See how it's kind of got this bubbly, thick and thin effect? And I think that's so cool. This took me like 3 different tries to get the right circumference of tube, but in the end, it was a pretty quick knit, very, very easy. Just in the top here, I did pearls. See, this section here is all pearls. And then I flipped it inside out to do the pearls, and then I flipped it right side out, and then the rest of the body is knit. And then just a teeny bit of 1x1 ribbing here at the end. And then the straps are just crocheted. Oh yeah, so I did a crochet border along the whole top of this camisole and then continued it into the strap and like went around like that. And this was a success. I love this yarn. I wanted to make like a sweatshirt in this yarn, but last summer it was so sold out, like I couldn't get this anymore, so that was put on hold. And maybe this year they will make this white color of the CottonWaves again, because I think a white sweatshirt with this texture would be so cool. It's a very beachy kind of yarn. And what is it exactly? Oh, it's a cotton and linen yarn. Okay, so actually, yeah, you can see that. You can see the cotton texture and the slightly darker linen fibers in there as well. Definitely a worsted weight gauge, I think. I made this on 5mm needles. And yeah, you could easily draft something like this yourself. I think you just have to try it on a lot as you go. My next item is a lot more mainstream. This is Cardigan No. 10 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And this is a beautiful wide sleeve cropped body cardigan with a double knit, what's it called? Neckband that took me like 3 days. I remember this took me so long, but it's worth it. That double knit neckband always looks so good. And this yarn, if you're sensitive to yarn, maybe you should try this. This is so good. This is called the Lang Yarns Yak, and this is in the color 99 Olive. So I think it's a blend of merino, mostly merino, but also some yak. And even my daughter, who's sensitive, has actually worn this sweater like super oversized, and she said it was good for her. So I was gonna make her something, then I kind of forgot, so maybe now oh no, there's a hole. What happened? So this is a pretty loose gauge, so I think maybe it's snagged, because it doesn't look like a bite mark. Okay, well, looks like I have a repair to do there. What else? I like how this, so I made the smallest size, and I'm not very petite, so this is gonna be pretty oversized. Oh yeah, just like the Ava Jacket was way too oversized on me. So I better watch out for My Favorite Things knitwear and being too oversized. So I made the smallest size because I wanted a fitted cropped little cardigan, and this still has 1 or 2 inches of positive ease on me, even at the smallest size. But it does have waist and hip shaping, so it goes in a little bit at the waist and then comes back out a little bit at the hips, which I think gives it a beautiful, perfect shape. And I also love this contiguous shoulder method of shaping the sleeves. I hate drop shoulders, I think that looks bad on me. Raglan is fine, but the contiguous shoulder is ultimate for me. And then I think the sleeves even have some increases at some point, so they're very, very wide. And to me, a wide sleeve is great. I think it looks really high-end or like high fashion to have a frivolous wide sleeve like that. So I love the fit of this. I love the color. And I guess the only problem now is that hole I need to fix. So this was a success. That one I knit on 5mm needles, and it had actually a half fisherman's rib for all the hems, but I hated how that looked, and it was actually too tight, like it wasn't laying correctly, so I had to rip that out, and I just did a half twisted rib instead, which is my favorite type of ribbing anyways. Next up is another one of my ultimate 10 out of 10 projects from last year. I get so many compliments on this, and I just feel happy when I wear it. This is the Gerda Sweater by Aegyo Knit. Look how good this is. It has a beautiful checkerboard and cable design with raglan cables that extend all the way into the body. And this light pink color, I just love this color. Oh, and it has a nice wide sleeve, just how I like. This is knit top down on 4mm needles, and the star of the show is definitely the yarn. I held 3 strands of yarn together. 2 were, so this is gonna be, I think I made this in the spring. So I did Knitting for Olive cotton merino yarn to have it be a little bit more lightweight. But actually cotton is pretty heavy of a fiber. So it is heavy, but then I guess it's not as warm. And it's a pretty loose gauge, so in the checkerboard area you can see little holes. So overall it's a slightly cooler knit than if you were just to use all merino. So anyways, the 2 strands of the cotton merino in the color Ballerina, the pale pink, and then 1 strand of a white yarn, lace weight yarn by KnitPicks called, I think Alpaca Cloud or something. And I just needed that lace weight yarn to meet gauge and make it a little thicker, and then alpaca is super drapey and soft, so I thought it would pair really nicely with the pink and make the effect of the pink even lighter, because I like, when I do color, sometimes I like the really, really light version of that color. And this pale pink is just, looks so good on me, I think. Especially, not now, but back when I had a tan, this looks so good. This took quite a while. I wanted it really oversized and long, so I did knit it longer, and that definitely took a lot more time than normal. Aegyo Knit also has a matching skirt, which I've been wanting to make in the exact yarn, but since this cotton is really heavy and drapey, I'm not sure that would be good for a skirt, so I think if I were to make the skirt, I would just switch to the straight up merino in the same color and have that as like a winter or fall skirt, because I don't think I would wear that in the spring or summer anyways. A raving success. I want to do more stuff by Aegyo Knit, but some of hers are really oversized with a drop sleeve, so that scares me a little bit, because sometimes at least this year I had a lot of oversized problems, and then drop sleeve I don't like. So if you have any recommendations of another Aegyo Knit sweater that might be good, let me know. And before I made that sweater, I made this sweater. This is the Delia Sweater by Merilin, and this is my first time doing a sweater with brioche, and oh my gosh, it takes a long time, just like everyone says. It's just as annoying as people say. It's kind of fun to do, but then when you see the 0 progress, you're kind of like, it's not that fun. Because for every row, you need to knit 2 rows, if that makes sense. I made this out of a woolen spun yarn called Wisconsin Woolen Spun, and it's a worsted weight yarn in the color Hawthorn. It's a beautiful, warm chocolate brown. And I don't really like woolen spun yarns, actually. I think you're gonna see another woolen spun problem that I had, but it just grows so much when you block it that it's seriously a problem, especially with an open texture like brioche. There's so much room for it to be blocked like 1,000 times larger than you want. This one luckily didn't block out too big, but I've got another one coming up that was a disaster. And then I just had some scraps for the teeny little contrast here at the bottom and the top of the sweater, which looks really cute. This is kind of like an oversized 80s look that I find really fun. I think it's a little bit too big. If there were maybe 2 inches less positive ease at the hips, I think I would wear this more than I do. But I'm really glad I got to try brioche. Merilin is a great pattern writer. I really like the pattern. Oh, one thing, I messed up the brioche pattern up here, and at the time I didn't understand how to rip back and fix it, so you can see a little bit of a line here, error line going across, but since it's a pretty dark chocolate, you won't notice, but I know it's there. So this is like a medium success, like a B, I think, just because I don't wind up wearing it that much. Maybe because it's thick, but like open weave kind of, so it's not that warming. And yeah, just a little bit too oversized in the body for me. Does anyone have experience frogging woolen spun yarn? Because I wonder if I were to harvest this, is that woolen spun yarn kind of too stretched out and destroyed already? Let me know what you think, or else I will give it a shot on this other one coming up and I'll let you know what happens. So my main knitting goal for last year was to try to get into a test knit. And then in January I did. So I completed all my yearly goals in like the first month or two, which was great. So this is the test knit. It is the Cynthia Cardigan by Gregoria Fibers. It's a very, very simple contiguous shoulder cardigan. It's knit on 6mm needles on Aran weight yarn, so it was super fast to knit up. Very simple. Even the button band is, oh, it's a vertical button band actually, so it's not as fast, but it's not double knit, which would take even longer. And then the buttons are little crochet buttons, which look so cute and vintage. And this is probably one of my best fitting garments I have because the contiguous shoulder looks really good on me. It's the perfect length, not too cropped and not too oversized. I didn't change anything because it was a test knit, but the sleeves are a little bit short. I have long arms, so for every single pattern I always have to knit 3 or 4 extra inches. But this Cynthia one hits about here, and it kind of looks good as like a bracelet length sweater. So I don't even think I would change that if I were to knit this again. This was knit in Lalu Knits Fluff, which is kind of a blown yarn. Instead, you could use Drops Air or Gepard Puno, I think, to get that same effect. And then I held it with, unfortunately, this is why this is not an A+, is because I held it with Drops Mohair, which I find itchy and to be the worst mohair in the world. So if I do want to make this again because this fits so nicely. Oh, and so the background color I used was white, and then the mohair I used was in the color Curry, which is like a beautiful golden brown, and I really like that effect. But if I were to make this again, I would use either the Knitting for Olive mohair, which I also find itchy sometimes. Like if I'm not cold enough, I find that one itchy. So like in the fall and spring, that is itchy. In the winter, it's okay. But the Isager mohair I have 0 problems with, so I would probably splurge on that mohair to make this again, to make sure it would not be itchy anymore. That's the only negative about this one is that it's itchy most of the time. Okay, here it is, my saddest disaster of 2025. And it started off so well. So this is the Beatrix Cardigan by Gregoria Fibers. And the reason why this is such a beautiful pattern, look at this texture. And the cables on the shoulder, it's like kind of a saddle shoulder that goes, the braid goes all the way down. And it has these beautiful little pearl buttons. And then I don't know what this background stitch is, but it took quite some time, but it looks really, really cool. And I love the color, but the yarn I used was woolen spun, and after I blocked it, it grew about 1,000,000 inches again. And so I cut it, I cut the body, and it just doesn't fit right. Even with those alterations, like I don't reach for this, I feel really stupid wearing it. So unfortunately, this is a harvest situation. I was just waiting to show it on this video, and now it is harvested. I'm gonna harvest the buttons, and then I'm gonna try to harvest this woolen spun yarn. I don't know if that's gonna work or not, but there's pretty much nothing I can do. I already cut and sewed to try to make it better, but that didn't really help. It just made other problems. And at first when I did it, I thought it looked good, but then after wearing it a while, I was like, ooh, there's like some weird puckering at this armpit area that I don't like, and it just makes me feel very bad to wear this. So I won't be wearing this anymore. The buttons are nice, and I would definitely knit this pattern again. The pattern is beautiful, well written. It looks good, and then I would not use a woolen spun yarn, or if I did, I would make sure to not block or wash it ever. The yarn I used is really soft, really nice, maybe not good for an open stitch like this. It's by Harrisfield Designs, and it's their Wellscroft Dorset yarn, which is an Aran weight yarn, and it's very soft and squishy, and it's so beautiful. It just didn't work for this project. I made this on 5mm needles in a 20 stitch gauge, and it came in 8 sizes, and I made the 3rd size, I think. I think I would probably size down for this as well. I think for sizing, I need to choose a size that is the same circumference as my hips, because when it starts ballooning out at the hips, that looks really bad. So I think my goal for 2026 is to not knit anything too oversized. Okay, we only have a few more left here. This is the Monday sweater by Petite Knit. Oh, let me undo this sleeve. I wear this a lot. It's a great basic raglan sweater. The sleeves are too short because I just knit them the length it said, and I have long arms, so this is like a bracelet length, which is nice for spring because it's pretty lightweight. And then I did my own palm tree pattern here because sweaters too often have snow or winter themed designs on them, and I don't like winter. I like tropical weather. So I decided to put a palm tree here, and this turned out A+. I love this. I guess I kind of used intarsia, but I think in the future I would just do duplicate stitch because trying to have that intarsia lay flat and look nice from the front was just too much trouble. You can just do duplicate stitch as well. And I did a medium okay job with this. From far away it looks a lot better and more even. And I think what I did is after I finished the intarsia part, I put the rest of this on the knitting machine here because I was able to match the gauge perfectly on the knitting machine, which is actually really hard to do, to have the same gauge on the knitting machine to match your hand knitting because it's so even that it might look really different. Or my knitting machine can only go up to like a DK weight yarn, sometimes worsted weight if you thread every other needle or hook. And then for the ribbing, I took it off the machine and then just did a twisted rib by hand because I love twisted rib. The yarn I used, what did I use? I don't even remember. Oh wow, okay, I used Knitting for Olive, the undyed color. And then for the palm tree, I used dark olive and nut brown. And then with the Knitting for Olive, I held it with a lace weight yarn called Cashmere Lace by Color Mart, that online shop that sells cone yarn I was telling you about. Nice, okay, so that's why it's so soft, because I don't find Knitting for Olive Merino to be soft at all. It's kind of like a rough merino, but held with a lace weight cashmere yarn is really, really nice. I made the size 3 of this sweater, I think, and I think the pattern was fine, nothing revolutionary, but if you're looking for a simple raglan sweater, then this is for you. I think for the neckline, I didn't make it as tall as it says because I like an open neckline. I think that's what I did, and then I folded it over so that it looked nice and thick. I think that's all I did here. Yep, that's all I have to say about that one. Okay, and my very last sweater that I made, I finished right after Christmas for my husband, and I finished it so close to Christmas that he thought it was supposed to be a Christmas present for him that I just didn't finish in time for. But I said, no, this was supposed to be your birthday present in March, and I just finished it early. Look how cool. So I found a ski sweater that looks pretty much like this, like on a vintage site like Poshmark or Depop or something like that. And so I thought, oh, I can just do that myself. So I made this out of Knitting for Olive Merino, whatever the black color is called, licorice or something like that. And then I made this entirely on the knitting machine, by the way, except for even the ribbing I did, yeah. And I'd like to use the knitting machine for projects for other people because if they don't use it, at least I didn't waste too much of my time making it. So I had the punch card for this I made the punch card for this little snowflake design here, which is repeated here at the sleeve in blue. And then I just knit a really big black rectangle for the front and back, and then I cut open the neckline. Like I just found one of his other sweaters and decided how open to make the cut neckline, and then I picked up stitches and knit those on the machine, I think, and folded it over to hide that cut steeped neckline edge. And then I picked up stitches and did the sleeves and then seamed it all together at the sides and the underarm part of the sleeve. So all this is seamed together because on the knitting machine you just make rectangles, or at least that's the easiest thing to do. And then I forgot to repeat this blue thing. I was gonna put that at the bottom of the hem also, but I forgot because I was concentrating too hard, I guess. And then for the little skiers, I just did duplicate stitch. I think I mapped it out with some thread where I wanted the mountains to go. And then I just did as much duplicate stitch as I could before I got too bored of it and stopped. And then this little skier guy I just embroidered with, I don't even know how I did it. I just tried my best until it looked like a human. Phew! Okay, I hope that wasn't too long and that you got a nice idea of some new yarns or designers that you'd like to try in the coming year. So now I'm going to talk about the New Year's yarn giveaway. And if you're not interested in that, then I hope you subscribe and give the video a like, and that I get to see you here again next time. Okay, so basically for this giveaway, I'm just gonna send somebody a giant box of yarn for them to try. Hopefully a lot of yarn that will be new to them, and I will ship anywhere internationally. That won't be a hurdle or obstacle for me. And just be aware of whatever tariffs or duties are in effect in your country. I'll be shipping from the US, so if you're in Norway, for example, I know they might have like really expensive duties or tariffs when you receive a parcel. So just before you enter and win, just make sure that there's nothing crazy going on there, or if you're willing to accept that. But my last winner was from Finland, and that was last year, and at that time she didn't have to pay any extra duties when she received her box. So yeah, hopefully everything will go well. And all you need to do to enter is just be a subscriber, hit the like button, and then just leave a comment below about whatever you want. So I'm really afraid of scammers. So if you receive a message from someone, just know it's not me. I will be verbally telling you in my next video who wins. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss out, because last time somebody won and they didn't contact me and they missed out. So I'll quickly run through all the yarn that will be in the box, and then maybe I'll talk a little bit about what happened over my Christmas break and why I'm in a new room here. So the first yarn in here is that Camel yarn I showed you earlier that I made my petite zipper sweater out of. This is by Ula+Lia, and this is made from free-range camels in Mongolia, and it's 100% baby camel yarn, and I find this so soft. It's really tightly spun and twisted, like there are many plies in here, and I think it's a DK weight yarn, and it's just so beautiful. And I had a leftover skein, so I thought I would include it here. Number 2 is this Spanish merino that I got on an amazing trip to Barcelona I took with my family and my mom last summer, and this is from the yarn shop called Ula+Lia. And this is their fingering weight merino yarn called Nadir. And it's not a soft merino, it's like a rough merino. And this has the best stitch definition ever. I'm actually making a Danish nightshirt out of this yarn, and I know this is gonna be left over, so I included that. It's fingering weight, like I said, 100 grams for 380 meters. And this is really cool in case, I don't know how easy this would be to get if you're not in Spain, but I thought that's a very special yarn to include. Okay, the next little grouping here is by Harrisville Designs, which is kind of local to me here in New Hampshire. And these are 4 of their natural undyed colors. And the yarn itself is called Sheer, and it's a Wellscroft Dorset yarn. Fingering weight in each skein is 50 grams for 161 yards. And I think this is all woolen spun, and I think you could maybe make a beautiful colorwork shawl or something like that with these. And if you like natural undyed sheep yarns, these are so beautiful, especially like this one. This is the same color I use in my Beatrix cardigan, just in the Aran weight version of that. So that one's called Hen of the Woods, that color. That one's really nice. Next up is a worsted weight merino, Spanish merino again, and this is by Wool Dreamers and it's called La Rinconada, and this is the color tierra, but I think it's verde sobre tierra, so green over brown. So I think it's a brown yarn where they dye a little bit of green on top. So this is like a dark greenish brown. And this is 100 grams. And this one's actually a pretty soft merino, but it also has like a rustic textured look to it, which I think is really cool. And if you've always wanted to try Wool Dreamers, then this will be great. The next one is called Garthenor Organic Snowdonia. This is a fingering weight yarn. I don't know, maybe could you use this for, no, I don't think you could use this for socks, but it's maybe a 2-ply yarn, 50 grams in a very light gray color. And Garthenor is in the UK somewhere. Okay, so this one is from Wales. The yarn is from Wales, England, and Scotland. And it's 95% Romney sheep and 5% Hebridean. It's worsted spun in small batches in West Wales. Oh, it says perfect for socks, sweaters, and shawls. So yep, that's Snowdonia by Garthenor Organic. The next one's a little crazy. So my mother-in-law is Japanese and she went to Japan recently and brought me back this really cool, crazy yarn that is just not me. So it's 100% Rambouillet merino wool. And it's called Nona Iseto. I think it's dyed with onion, possibly. And it's 100 grams. Feels like maybe a DK weight, but I know someone will really appreciate this really cool, what's it called? Like hand-dyed color thing. But unfortunately it's not me, so I included that in there. The next one is a little ball of Let Lopi. This is the rustic Icelandic yarn I was talking about earlier. And this is the color Rust, I think, which is the color I've used most because I actually like to use this yarn to make little crocheted toys out of. And this yarn is just so fuzzy and it gives a really realistic look to little toy animals. And the orange is good because I've made like a fox, a guinea pig, like a bunch of different animals surprisingly have this orangish color. So I included one of those. Oh, this is nice. Okay, this is a ball of the Isager Silk Mohair. This is the same one I used in my petite knit zipper sweater. And if you haven't tried their silk mohair, you gotta try it. It's so soft. This is a beautiful golden color, number 63. And it's 75% mohair and 15% silk. Similar to that, in case you have mohair sensitivity, I've got the Cynthia alpaca silk thing. So it's like a mohair alternative. Is that upside down? Sorry. And it's in a beautiful white color by Cynthia. It's 25 gram ball. And it's 69% Suri alpaca and 10% silk. And this is fuzzier than a silk mohair, and to me this is very, very soft. And the company is Lana Grossa. Then I also had an extra ball of this itchy drop silk mohair, but maybe you're okay with this kid silk. This is in the color Curry, which I used in the Cynthia Cardigan by Gregoria Fibers. So maybe it's fine. Either way, you could make a little toy out of it. I think I used this exact one to make a tiger for my daughter's birthday. So it's, if you can't use it on your skin, you can make something that will be off your skin. You know my Ava Jacket by My Favorite Things Knitwear, that black fingering weight yarn that you hold sometimes to make the newspaper print? Well, they said you needed 2 balls, but I didn't even finish 1 ball of that. So I have an extra that somebody will get. It's 80% wool and 20% flax, and it's a 50 gram ball for 208 meters. So definitely fingering weight, and I find this very soft. Isager must have very high quality wool because I don't find their wool to be very scratchy at all. Another black yarn. This is by one of my favorite mills. Norwegian wool mill called Hillesvåg, and this is called Vilje, and it's a fingering weight lamb's wool yarn. And I find this so so soft and squishy. It's 100 grams, and there are 375 meters in this. 100% non-superwash Norwegian lamb's wool. Another one is Drops Sky. This is one of the yarns I used for my Ava jacket. This is the chainette yarn that I used to substitute for the chainette yarn by Isager. I find this really soft. I've made a little bunny rabbit in this that's also super soft and squishy. It is baby alpaca and merino wool. So 74% alpaca, 18% polyamide, which is nylon, and 8% wool. And this is a little 50-gram ball in the color, I think this might be Marzipan. It's kind of a grayish off-white type of shade. And it's definitely worth a try. It's really soft. You could make, yeah, I would make either a toy or a sweater in this. Oh, there's one other thing by Garthenor Organic. This is called Beacons, and this is really, really soft. It's 75% Polworth and 25% Romney. This is in the color Rigging, which is like a creamy white, and it's 50 grams DK weight yarn. And then, since I love Norwegian patterns and Dala Garn, I decided to throw in this little vintage pattern booklet. The pattern's called Kongsberg 6001, I guess. And it's this cute little jacket that's kind of a geometric color work, and there's like a blue and black version here on the back. And if you like charts, this will be great for you because the whole thing is charted. So this is the sleeve chart, for example. And then the booklet itself is in Norwegian, and then it has a little insert that is the entire thing in English, in case you need that. So I just decided to throw that in there for fun because who wouldn't want to try a Norwegian colorwork sweater? So that's all the knitting and yarn related stuff I have to share today. If you don't care about whatever I'm going to say next, then thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you here again next time. For everyone else, I'd like to introduce you to hopefully my new filming space. This is like in the attic part of our house, and this is where my mom used to live. She lived with us for maybe like 7 or 8 years when my kids were really small, and then during COVID, we were all just had a little bubble where we all lived together. And now she's got her own space just 15 minutes away, so not to worry there. We all have our own space now. But she lived in this beautiful big attic room here that now I've taken over as my crafting and music practice zone. I play oboe right over here. And I did all the wallpapering myself and painted, and then my husband helped me do the beadboard and the chair rail around the whole room, and I just think it's so beautiful. And the best part is all this storage cabinets over here. I thought I had a lot of knitting books, but then by the time I put it in like one little cubby area of the cabinet, there was still so much more storage room. So the possibilities are endless here, and I'm so grateful that we had this attic space that I could convert to playroom for the kids, or arts and crafts for me and the kids, and music practice room. Before this, all my arts and crafts stuff was in the living room, along with my kids' arts and crafts stuff. They're really into that type of thing as well. So now pretty much everything is going to be moved up here, so there'll be more room downstairs. And then this little antique table here we brought upstairs. I'll probably put either my knitting machine or my sewing machines on this, or maybe both. I'll have to just exchange it out for whichever I'm using at the time. And then my little dress form here that I made some years ago from one of those online dress form patterns where you sew it all together and stuff it. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of empty up here now. We kind of just finished and put these vintage rugs down. And the lighting is pretty good for winter. Luckily it snowed a little last night, so the outside there's a lot of light bouncing off and coming up in here. But we had to change out the light bulbs because there's pretty much just one window in front of me, and then this kind of teeny skylight over here. So definitely some parts of the day it is extremely dark in here. So as the year progresses, I'll have to see where is the best place to film for the lighting. But as of now, I'm loving it. There's so much room to like move my arms. And then of course, all the storage space is awesome. So yeah, that has just been an ongoing project for the past 4 months. And I'm glad that's finally done because now I've got more time for knitting. And then during our Christmas break, we do celebrate Christmas, at least culturally, and we had my mom and my husband's parents come over for Christmas dinner, which I host here at our house. For Christmas dinner, I always make Indian food. I'm half Indian and I love to cook Indian food. So I also like to do a little fusion stuff. So for the main course, I made a keema hot water crust pie. So hot water crust pie I learned from the Great British Bake Off. And then I filled it with keema, which is like a ground lamb curry. So it had a layer of the keema, and then under that was kind of a potato curry to like catch all the juices. And that turned out so well. Like it was fully cooked and the crust got nice and crispy, and everyone said it was my best version that I've made so far. I usually make that for every Christmas. And this year's was the best version, so it's nice to hear that I'm getting better with time. And then I made bagara bangan, which is an eggplant curry. And what else did I make? Oh, I made a fusion Brussels sprouts dish. So I roasted Brussels sprouts with some dried coconut and some fried dal. That was really good. And then for dessert, I made a Swedish, what's it called? Kanelang or something like that. It's kind of like a cinnamon roll that is still attached and it has cardamom in it, which I love in my desserts. And that one was a little bit underbaked, but it looked really good. And there were so many other Christmas cookies and other treats around that people didn't mind too much that they couldn't eat the middle of this dessert. So that's how we spent our holiday break. Luckily, we were sick all of November and December up until Christmas time. And then by the time Christmas rolled around, everyone was better and doing well. So that's all we can hope for, is a healthy, happy family. So I hope you're all doing well and that you made some nice progress on whatever you're working on. I also hope that your new year is off to a great start. And let me know in the comments what you're working on. Did you do a New Year's Day cast on, like I hear is really popular right now? Or are you trying to finish up all your whips from the previous year? Let me know, and thank you so much for watching and joining me here in the new year, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye!